Right guys, now these are the videos I love watching the most, and they are the personal insights, the personal stories of somebody's collection. And I've never done one of these before. I've never done a collection video before, but we thought it'd be fun to do a series of videos. Part 1, part 2, part 3, 4. Let's see how we go. This is part 1 of my collection. So here we are. Now this is part 1. This is a box that I basically stole when I was filming with IWC last year, which I'm really quite proud of, but they were also kind enough to allow me to walk out the door with. And it's got 8 watches in, and I just thought that it was a nice encapsulation of where we are right now. It's got watches from the very beginning till this week, quite frankly, and it covers all bases. We've got a couple of divers, we've got a couple of dress watches, and we've got some unusual complications. So let's kick it off with this compressor diver from Baltic. It's absolutely beautiful. 39mm stainless steel, incredible value proposition. I think it featured last year in the Watch Annual in 2021, and there were a lovely bunch of guys, for me, being inspired by the past, but creating really quite wearable, beautiful, classic proportions in inspired dress watches. So Baltic, beautiful brand, really love that one. I actually wore that on my honeymoon last year. Next up, alongside it, a traditional diver. This is a Tudor 7016 Submariner Snowflake. What I love about this, and I picked this up earlier this year, is that I've always loved Tudors because they're this sort of, I think, the more interesting cousin of Rolex, not the little brother, as people always refer them to, but maybe the more interesting cousin that you only get to see at the weddings every few years. But they're so much more interesting. This, to me, has beautiful patina to it. It's a watch that, interestingly, I got through a dealer who had confirmed that it was never sold on the open market. It was either given to the water polo team or it was issued to the South African Navy. And both of those, to me, are fascinating. And until we have a little bit more scholarship or insight come out, we won't necessarily know where it came from. But I love the aesthetic. Super clean, the purest dive watch. To me, this is the purest of dive watch. Absolutely love it. I've got it on a grey NATO, and I just love wearing it. It's been polished a little bit, but not too much to lose the sharp edges of the case. Next up, we've got a really interesting independent. We've got an Andersen Geneve. This is a really special watch to me. It's a Montre Tact. And it was really he's become a friend of mine, Pierre-Alexandre, the CEO, and Sven Andersen at Andersen Geneve, I've known for many, many years, and had the pleasure of doing some work for them as well. And this was a watch that I fell in love with when I saw it. It's super clean, super stripped back. It's got this imperial style case. Whenever I wear it, people always say it looks like a chocolate on your wrist, and that's very much in line with those Italian chocolates that have that very sharp edge to them, the coin edging to them. And this is a case that's made specifically by one man in Geneva who has the know-how to produce this cathedral case by hand, where they actually attach the lugs, solder the lugs onto this case. Montre Tact, because it was a complication developed by Abraham Louis Breguet, and it was a pocket watch that effectively allowed you to tell the time, but in a tactful manner, in an elegant way, without having to pull your pocket watch up and turn the dial up to you, or now in this case, wearing the watch and go, hey guys, you know, things are getting on here, we need to leave this meeting. So this is what it's like. It's down here like that. And it's a single disc running down the bottom, which effectively moves clockwise. And you can see the hour and you can see the minute. Of course, there's no running seconds, so it's not a specific timekeeper, but for me, I love the whimsical, sort of philosophical nature of timekeeping for this watch. Absolutely beautiful, two-tone, steel and rose gold, white gold and rose gold. So he's never done a watch in steel, but really, really cool, really interesting watch. Then we come to the watch that really started it all for me. This is my grandfather's watch. I never met my grandfather, either of them actually. This was from my father's side, and it's a Constellation, an Omega Constellation day date. At the time, you know, Omega were flying. It was 70s, 80s when these Giorgenta designed Omegas were coming to fruition, and they produced quite a lot of them. including the pipan dials that people are aware of. But what I love is this tonneau shaped case, absolutely beautiful condition. I mean, he did wear it, and he was only a one watch guy, which is incredible to me, but he was a one watch guy. And he wasn't a man of great means. He saved up for one watch, and he wore one watch for his whole life. I never met him, but he lived in South Africa, he lived in Joburg in South Africa, he was an accountant. He saved for one watch, and this was the watch he wore his whole life. 36mm yellow gold case. Gerald Genter designed Constellation, of course, one of his lesser known designs, and I got given it for my 21st. Like so many of you out there, I'm sure you've got these watch stories, and it starts with a watch that gets the whole thing going, and this was the watch for me. Super elegant. I fell in love with it, and at the time it had a gold, a sort of Milanese bracelet that he had put on it. Took it to Omega at Westfield here in London, and they were just fired up about it, and they got me excited about it. Got it back a couple months later, couldn't pay for the servicing because it was so expensive, found a way to pay for it, wore it to a wedding, and that was the end of it. You know, time only, really elegant. There is a day and a date, but interestingly enough, back in the sort of 60s, 70s, Omega really were punching toe for toe, like blow for blow with Rolex. And they didn't touch anything on the case, they didn't touch anything on the dial when they serviced it, they just did the movement, which was the advice they gave to me, which I'm very grateful for. So my grandfather's Constellation, lovely watch, doesn't get a great deal of wrist time, and generally my philosophy is that if it's not being worn, it's got to go, but that's the only watch that doesn't apply to. So we come to a watch that I'm really excited to share that actually only came in recently. It's an AP, but it's not a Royal Oak. It's a Huitieme from AP. From the 80s. It was a really interesting design, actually. I put a bid on it at Watches of Knightsbridge a couple of weeks back and didn't expect to win it. It's from my year of birth. It's an 89 watch, full set, 40mm stainless steel case, and I absolutely love a few of the design touches. This tiered case is stunning. It reminds me of these vintage Pateks that we get really excited about. Cases from Longines in the 50s, 60s. It really is stunningly elegant. And I love the fact it's from AP and it's not a Royal Oak. It's got AP actually on the case, not on the dial or even on the crystal. It's actually on the case, which is really odd, but a nice design touch. And the hands are blued, thermally blued, with the AP logo on the dial in blue as well. So it's a restrained design, a really interesting watch, but it's all about the detail for me. Super interesting. Not one you're going to see in the wild very often, and I'm really quite grateful to have it in the collection. So you even got the original AP clasp there and the full set box and papers. Coming to something slightly more modern, this is the iconic, and I use that word lightly because I know a lot of my friends out there in the watch media will cringe when they hear that word iconic, but there are a few designs that do deserve it, and I certainly think this, alongside the Lange 1 when it comes to modern design, is an icon. And this is the IWC Chronograph Portugieser, and 40mm. It's just really beautiful. It's one that you see across the room, you instantly know what it is, even from these pushers on the side. This is the one that my wife wears most. She's got a Jean Rousseau strap on here, which I think brings it to life. I've always loved the gold marker variation. Of course, it did come in a blue marker variation. It does also come in a blue dial, a green dial now, a black dial. So you can get in a whole bunch of configurations, but for me, this is the classic variation, and I just love its proportions, especially on the IWC folding clasp, the deploying clasp, that's just incredibly well engineered. IWC Portugieser Chronograph. So, moving swiftly on to one of my, if I were ever asked a watch that I needed to grab, or that I wanted to or should grab if we were in a situation where we had to get out the damn house, then I think this might be it. This is the watch I got married in last year, but it's always a watch that I had on my wall growing up as a kid. People grew up with Pamela Andersen posters on their wall. I grew up with the 1921 from Vacheron on the wall. Super sad, but my God, I love this watch. This was the original tour watch in my mind. 1921, the story of its development is mythical. To this day, we'll never quite know the true story, but some say it was from the trenches in the war, where American soldiers got used to turning their pocket watches to the side and soldering lugs on and then wearing in the trench. And then of course, Vacheron, seeing an opportunity, supplied the American market with these watches. 40mm in this case, yellow gold. The original back, the original back in 1921 was, I think, 36mm, so somewhat smaller, but this is in the Historique collection from Vacheron. So always harking back to old references, but bringing them back with a new twist. Vacheron have been killing it in the last few years. They always manage to find a way to make something elegant, but with a little bit of something there to make it sexy as well. Of course, the Overseas has been going nuts, but to me, that's the original tool watch. It's also shared and discussed as a driver's watch. I can see that. You know, it harks back to the Roaring Twenties and that driving watch vibe on a Duesenberg. There's also stories of vicars and men of the cloth being able to read the time while they're telling their sermon in their different environments. So it's a storied past. It's also got an open case back with the 4400 caliber handwound from Vacheron, beautifully finished. I think Kari Voutilainen once said it was the most beautifully finished and easily serviceable movement of modern times. Absolutely love that watch. And I've got it on a Molquin suede strap there, which is easy to change with a little pin buckle underneath. Absolutely love that watch and love the versatility of it, especially dressing it down, because it can be quite formal, dressing the 1921 down. They've now discontinued the yellow gold, but that's my pick. If you're going to go for the 1920s, the vintage vibe, you've got to go for the yellow gold. Finishing this part up now, part one, being closed off by the most recent watch that I've just picked up on finance, actually. Picked this watch up on finance from Watchfinder. They offer a 12-month 0% finance option, and I saw this and I thought, you know what, I absolutely can't afford to buy this watch, but I need it because this is one I've always lusted after, and they so rarely pop up. I needed to make it work. And you know what, it was actually seamless. Watchfinder have not sponsored this. They have not paid us a penny to say this, but the system for getting the finance is super, super easy on the website. So within a few minutes, it was done and dusted. And this IWC Cousteau divers was on my wrist. 42mm stainless steel. 2004, IWC made this in a series of 1,553. So 1953, 1,953 references. And it was made famous by the Talking Watches episode that Ben Clymer did with what's his name, John Mayer. And John Mayer, I think, coined it that this was like driving, when you've got Ferraris in the garage, this was like driving a Citroen, or something similar to that, which I found highly offensive because this watch is built to last. It is rock solid, it's bulletproof, and I absolutely love it. He did say that he looked at it on every holiday he'd been on in the summer and looked at the dial and wondered how they were able to create it. This is a mesmerizing dial, truly mesmerizing. A compressor style case, so internal rotating bezel, and then the time. Orange and blue, chronometre bleu from F. Piguet, eat your heart out. This is as good, if not better, in my view. And all of this for somewhere in the region of £5,000. It's a hell of a watch. I love this. I absolutely love this. This is my summer watch 2022. Thank you, folks, for watching my collection part one. Please, as always, do leave your comments underneath. If you like the video, hit the subscribe button and tell me what you thought of this lineup. We've got more to come, so hold tight. But catch you soon. Go well.